and he drove the person's car because he wanted to, keep the car away from where the murder happened. So he took the car somewhere, parked the car there, and came down from that car and went to his house. Do you know how they caught this guy? They brought dogs. Days after, they brought dogs. When they found the car, dogs smelled the car. They got the scent of the person that was in the car, and the dogs led them from that point where the car was parked to the person's house. That's how they connected that guy to that crime, to that murder, by smell. In other words, just by sitting in that place, in that car, parts of him were left in that car. Parts of him were actually in the atmosphere for days. How much more when you have intercourse with someone? There are parts of you, there are fluids flowing from your body. There are parts of you deposited in that person. And scientifically, they've said it can also last for days also. That's physically, but emotionally, it literally lasts, or mentally, it lasts forever. All right, these are scientific facts. Statistical facts. A lot of trouble or challenges or dissatisfaction or infidelity married couples face, a lot of it is tied to their ex. So you will hear people that said, oh, I've been married for some time, but I cheated with my ex. In fact, I've seen people that, one day before the wedding, or sometimes wedding night, or sometimes 1 week after the wedding, they are still in touch with their ex, telling their ex, I miss you. As in 1 day before the wedding, some wedding night, some 1 week after the wedding. In other words, they are with somebody else physically, but they are still with their ex emotionally, because people underestimate the place of soul ties. Your soul doesn't depart easily. The Bible says something. It said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. People think that's the same statement. No, it's not the same. There are two different things there. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. In other words, he's saying, I won't leave you physically. I won't also forsake you emotionally. So it's possible to leave somebody physically and still not forsake them. That means you are still connected to them. But it's possible to be with somebody physically. That means you've not left them, but you have also forsaken them already emotionally. There are many married couples like that. So this man or this woman is living in a house with their husband or wife physically, but emotionally, they are disconnected with their spouse. They are somewhere else. You need to understand that, guys. So these things are proven scripturally. They are proven scientifically. They are also proven statistically. That there's more to sex than mere skin to skin. There's more to sex than mere skin to skin. It is as much a spiritual mystery as it is a physical fact. God didn't just create sex for pleasure, even though it's pleasurable. But that's not the main thing. It's supposed to be the official joining of a man and a woman in marriage. That's why anything outside of that is abuse of it. Anything outside of that will be counterproductive on the long run. It's a joining of two people, man and woman, in a better way, husband and wife. Point number two. Point number two says, all sex is bad if it's outside marriage. All sex is bad if it's outside marriage. Of course, sex is good. However, if sex is outside marriage, it's bad. All, very important, all sex is bad if it's outside marriage. We live in a world where almost everybody agrees adultery is bad. I've done those surveys over and over again. I've asked people, do you think it's right for a married person to sleep with somebody they're not married to? Almost everybody believes it's bad. However, the challenge is that almost every other person also believes that fornication is okay. That means for a single person to be having sex, they think it's okay. And that's a big deal. Everybody agrees that if you're married, you can't sleep with somebody you're not married with. Everybody, even the worst sinner in the world agrees with that. However, the same people also think or believe that if you are single, you are free to have sex as much as you like. What a joke. That cannot work, because the same people that are single are the same people that will become married. In other words, that lifestyle will be there. Marriage doesn't change you. Marriage doesn't change you. And that is the biggest setup that people have been having. Marriage doesn't change you. So many people live anyhow they like when they are single, thinking that once I get married, I will change. But marriage doesn't change you. If you are used to taking something that is not yours, that lifestyle is not just going to disappear. I like the way I normally say it sometimes, that a lizard that is single will not become an alligator when they are married. So you're going to be the same person. So if you are used to taking something that is not yours, marriage won't solve that. Marriage won't solve that. When you are single and you're having sexual relations with somebody you're not married, even if you're applying to get married, that's not marriage. So once you're having that kind of a relationship, you are building the lifestyle, you are building the habit, you are building the mindset that taking something that is not mine is okay. Now, you will get married and that lifestyle will not change. And this is where a lot of people are stuck in adultery. I've done this job for a while. I've done marriage counseling for a while. And I found out that most times when you see adultery in a marriage, there is a foundation of fornication. Fornication is when a single person has sex. Adultery is when a married person has sex after they're married. All right? But they are both sex outside marriage. They are the same thing. They are both sex outside marriage. So we have to stop seeing fornication as okay and seeing adultery as bad. They are both the same thing. They are both the same thing. Let's look at the scripture. Galatians 5 verse 19. You know, the Bible made it clear that it's the same thing. It says here, now the works of the flesh, they were listing what the works of the flesh were. It said, now the works of the flesh are manifest. That means they are these. It says, which are these? It said, number 1, adultery. Number 2, fornication. They're basically listed together. They are basically listed together. Many people think they are different. They are the same. They are both talking about people having sex outside of their marriage. They are both talking about people having sex outside their marriage. So if you build that lifestyle when you're single, marriage won't change you. And I wish more and more single people can learn this, because a lot of them think, oh, we plan to get married. That's not marriage. A lot of those relationships might not lead to marriage. But if you have already done the bonding, you've already had the sex, it's going to affect you by the time you meet the person that you want to marry. And remember that one day, you meet the person you want to marry and you find out that you have messed up a lot of relationships in your life already because of sexual intercourse that you could have kept clean. You could have kept those relationships clean. It helps the breakup to be clean when there's no sex involved. In my first point, I talked about the fact that how there's attachment and bonding. In fact, scientists say that it's worse. This bonding and attachment is worse when the person was your first, was your best, or was your most intimate. I hope you got that. The scientists said that this bonding, like that of a child and a mother, that is worse when the person was your best, when the person was your best, or when the person was your best intimate. So, in other words, ladies that have had sex for the first time with somebody, they find out that the attachment to that person is stronger. And I've handled a lot of these cases in counseling, where this person is a grown woman now, but is still attached to the first person they slept with. And maybe they thought it was a relationship then. They were young teenagers or something, or even young adults, and they felt, oh, we're in love. Wait till you marry. Being in love is not enough. Wait till you marry. So they thought we're in love, and by the time they marry, by the time they are dating, they now have sex, and they later do not marry. And you find out that this guy, or sometimes this lady, is attached to this person. Is attached to this person years after. All right? Very, very important. So watch out for that. So you need to understand if you're not married, you're not married. Don't assume that a fornicator will be changed when he's married. No. I usually say that every fornicator is an adulterer in training. Every fornicator is an adulterer in training. So scientifically and statistically, it has been proven that for over 90% of cases where there's adultery in the marriage, if you check it, there's a foundation of fornication. There was a foundation of taking what is not mine. A foundation of saying, hey, we don't have to honor any boundaries. We don't have to honor any rules. It's important you keep yourself till you get married. Because one day, you are going to regret joining yourself with people that you are not yet married to. Because not all those relationships, until you are married, you are not married. Even if it's 2 days to your wedding, don't sleep with anybody you are not married with. Don't do it. 2 days. Because some relationships have broken even when on the wedding day. And it didn't lead to marriage. So just hold on. Hold on. You have your whole life. You have your whole life to sleep with this person. There is no rush. There is no rush. You have your whole life to sleep with this person. There is no rush. So all sex outside marriage is bad. All sex, as long as it's outside marriage, it is bad. Whether it's fornication or adultery. Everybody understands adultery is bad, but we are kind of okay with fornication. It's a setup. We are setting up many married people to go and fail in marriage by telling them it's okay to have sex before marriage, because when they get into marriage, they find out the self-control doesn't just appear. It doesn't just appear. It's a lifestyle you build. As a matter of fact, you build that lifestyle when you are single. The self-control you build when you are single is the self-control you use when you are married. The self-control you build when you are single is the self-control you use when you are married. It's the same one. So you have to build it ahead. You have to build it ahead. All right? So any sex outside of marriage is bad. It's the same people that are single are the same ones, going to become married. The same people that are single are the same ones going to become married. And a lot of people have messed up powerful relationships. Breakups are tougher when sex has been involved. I mean, all breakups are hard, but it's easier when it's just a clean break. Hey, I'm sorry, this relationship can't work anymore, and there has been no sex involved, we can move on. But once sex has been involved, everybody finds out that the breakup becomes more difficult. In fact, you will see some people saying, after all I gave to you, after having sex with you, because they know that they've crossed certain lines in what they were given. So you need to understand that. It will affect. You need to understand that it will definitely affect. So all sex outside of marriage is sin. Whether it's fornication or adultery, they are both the same. Everybody crucifies the person committing adultery. We need to start paying attention to the person committing fornication, because that's where he's going to end up. All right? So that's point number 2. For the third point, point number 3, what nobody tells you about sex is that it's not just once. It's not just once. Many people, when they want to venture into this thing called sex, at their first time or the first few times, they always make them the promise, oh, it's going to be just once. It's going to be just once. Well, truthfully, it is hardly ever once. Once you cross this line of having sex, it's a whole new world after that. Many young people always ask me, many young people ask me that, oh, I'm a virgin, my friends are pressuring me, or my boyfriend is pressuring me and all that. You need to realize that if you're a virgin, for instance, it takes only 1 minute for you to cross that line and not be a virgin anymore. But what you need to realize is that once you cross that line, you cannot cross back and be a virgin again. So most of your friends that have lost their virginities, they are trying to put you under pressure. You don't envy them. They are at a place you can join any day you want. But you are at a place that they can never join no matter how much they try. So you are the one that should be envied, not them. You are the one that should be feeling proud, not them. So make sure you never let anybody pressure you to cross that line. Once you cross that line, it's never as it seems. It can never be once. Everyone that is addicted to drugs today just tried it just once. Everyone addicted to smoking, to drinking, they all tried it once. That is one of the biggest lies the devil tells people. That is going to be once. It's never once. It's never once. Remember, those people are at a place you can cross in one day. You can move and join them amongst people that are having sex, but they can never cross back to where you are. So that's why systematically, for them to feel good with themselves, they need more and more people to cross to join them. Stay where you are, keep yourself. And even if you have done it before, you can stop it from now, because it never just stops with once. It never stops with once. Sexual addiction is a big deal. Many people actually feel that, sex is something very easy to control. Yes, I agree. Some people look like they have a better control of it, but many other people are going through difficulty managing it. Many other people are struggling. Many other people have what they call sexual addictions. That's why we are still dealing with issues of rape today, molestation, pedophilia, things like that. Why? Somebody somewhere cannot control his sexual urge. Somebody somewhere cannot control it. Sexual addiction is a big deal. It's clinically confirmed today that some people are addicted to sex. Just like some people are addicted to drugs, some are addicted to alcohol, some are addicted to nicotine, some people are addicted to sex. And unfortunately, we live in a world where they can't even come out to get help, because they'll be judged both by the society and even by the church. They can't get help. There is such a thing as sexual addiction. It's real. And you see, for you to become sexually addicted, you have to start with one time. No, I mean, all drug dealers, everybody starts one time. For you to become a sexual addict, It starts with that one time. So if you can stop that one time, you can stop the addiction. But it's that one time. Everybody. I used to be a chain smoker, before I became born again. I used to be a chain smoker, and I remember all of us started, we didn't even start with a full stick of cigarette. We started with the butt of cigarette that people smoked and dropped. That's where we all started. Just once, before we became addicts. So it's never just once. It always goes again and again and again. The devil will just move you every time 1 inch at a time till you get to where he wants you to get for the slaughter. So don't even start it. It's never just once. Sexual addiction is real. And scientifically, I told you I will tell everything scripturally and scientifically and statistically. Scientifically, they found out that the pleasures of sex, the pleasure you feel during sex, can be as high as that of drugs. They said scientifically, the chemicals that are released, one is called opiates, one is called dopamine. They are both linked to drugs, dope and opium. They are both linked to, the chemicals that are released in the brain when people take drugs. In other words, just the way people can become drug addicts, that's how people can become sex addicts. And these two things are powerful because of what they do to your brain. Do you know most drug dealers don't take drugs? Do you know that one of the rules of being a good drug dealer is that you can't take drugs because the people selling it know how powerful it is. So that's how sex too is, almost at the same level with the chemicals it releases in your brains. So sexual addiction is real. So sometimes it's just that one step. Don't do it that one time. If you're watching me for any reason and you're a virgin, keep your virginity till you get married. That bonding, there's nothing like it with your husband and your wife. Don't let anybody pressure you. Even if you are planning to get married, that's not marriage. Wait till you are married. Don't lay a foundation, that you don't want to build on. Don't lay a foundation of taking what's not your own. A foundation of lack of self-control, a foundation of impatience, a foundation of lack of boundaries. Don't lay that foundation because that's the foundation you build on in your marriage. You can't build on lack of self-control before marriage and want to build on self-control in marriage. You can't build on lack of boundaries before marriage and build on boundaries in marriage. It doesn't work like that. This is something nobody tells you about sex, that sexual addiction is real. And interestingly, there are many human beings dealing with it today, many. Those are the people that rape children because they can't control it. And you see, some people are saying, on the surface, people just say, oh, how can you, rape a child? How can you do this? How can you sexually assault this person? How can you, that be responsible for your own actions? You see, when you say that, it's obvious you've not dealt with drug addicts before. If you have dealt with drug addicts before, you understand that no matter what they say when they are sane, when the pressure of this addiction comes, it's a different ballgame. They will sell their own children. They will sell their own children to take drugs. It's a different ballgame. If you have never been addicted before, you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. But those of you that have dealt with any kind of addiction, you understand what I'm talking about. It's beyond pep talk. It's beyond encouragement. Once the pressure. That's why if you notice when they want to help people, like they even put them in rehab. It's a big problem. It's not you must be a good person. It's not about that. It's not about that. When the pressure, that addiction, it becomes a real issue. So it's never just once. It's never just once. Be careful of just that one time. All right? And people dealing with sexual addiction sometimes it's even not about the sex. It's usually a pointer to deeper problems that they're facing. It might be self-esteem issues. It might be abuse that they have faced. It might be different things that they have had to deal with that is just manifesting sexually. So if you are here watching and you feel you have that kind of an issue, please seek help. Look for where you will not be judged and where you'll be helped. Seek help, and that will help you, turn and overcome this challenge. So sometimes when people are dealing with sexual addiction, like I said, it's a sign of a deeper problem. Some even have rejection issues, have daddy issues. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship with their fathers, so they are seeking for love in all the wrong places, and it has given birth to that addictive behavior, that compulsive behavior. Some it was that they were abused when they were young. I had a friend that works with prostitutes, and he has worked with them for years, and I asked him one day, I said, what's the one common thing all prostitutes have in common? He said, most of them have been molested sexually. Most of them have molested. So sometimes that triggers off the addiction. I'm just saying that because you need to understand that sexual addiction is a broad thing on its own, and if you are watching and you need help, please get help. If you're watching me for any reason and you're a virgin, keep your virginity till you get married. That bonding, there's nothing like it with your husband and your wife. Don't let anybody pressure you. Even if you are planning to get married, that's not marriage. Wait till you are married. Don't lay a foundation, that you don't want to build on. Don't lay a foundation of taking what's not your own. A foundation of lack of self-control, a foundation of impatience, a foundation of lack of boundaries. Don't lay that foundation, because that's the foundation you build on in your marriage. You can't build on lack of self-control before marriage and want to build on self-control in marriage. You can't build on lack of boundaries before marriage and build on boundaries in marriage. It doesn't work like that. This is something nobody tells you about sex, that sexual addiction is real. And interestingly, there are many human beings dealing with it today, many. Those are the people that rape children because they can't control it. And you see, some people are saying, on the surface, people just say, oh, how can you, rape a child? How can you do this? How can you sexually assault this person? How can you, that be responsible for your own actions? You see, when you say that, it's obvious you've not dealt with drug addicts before. If you have dealt with drug addicts before, you understand that no matter what they say when they are sane, when the pressure of this addiction comes, it's a different ballgame. They will sell their own children. They will sell their own children to take drugs. It's a different ballgame. If you have never been addicted before, you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. But those of you that have dealt with any kind of addiction, you understand what I'm talking about. It's beyond pep talk. It's beyond encouragement. Once the pressure. That's why if you notice when they want to help people, like they even put them in rehab. It's a big problem. It's not you must be a good person. It's not about that. It's not about that. When the pressure, that addiction, it becomes a real issue. So it's never just once. It's never just once. Be careful of just that one time. All right? And people dealing with sexual addiction sometimes it's even not about the sex. It's usually a pointer to deeper problems that they're facing. It might be self-esteem issues. It might be abuse that they have faced. It might be different things that they have had to deal with that is just manifesting sexually. So if you are here watching and you feel you have that kind of an issue, please seek help. Look for where you will not be judged and where you'll be helped. Seek help, and that will help you, turn and overcome this challenge. So sometimes when people are dealing with sexual addiction, like I said, it's a sign of a deeper problem. Some even have rejection issues, have daddy issues. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship with their fathers, so they are seeking for love in all the wrong places, and it has given birth to that addictive behavior, that compulsive behavior. Some it was that they were abused when they were young. I had a friend that works with prostitutes, and he has worked with them for years, and I asked him one day, I said, what's the one common thing all prostitutes have in common? He said, most of them have been molested sexually. Most of them have molested. So sometimes that triggers off the addiction. I'm just saying that because you need to understand that sexual addiction is a broad thing on its own, and if you are watching and you need help, please get help.